is a video about skill 1 on the bus collision assessment. Skill 1 says model conservation of momentum to predict outcomes of collisions involving objects of different masses. So this is the bus collision assessment, and we see that there's objects of different masses hitting the bus, and we want to know what impact those have. And the question 4 and 5 here are where the question gets more challenging. So in order to figure that out, I'm going to go back to this practice that we worked on together. And there's a very similar problem about this, where we can tell that I'll highlight this in yellow, how bad the injuries are when a person gets hit by a shopping cart will depend on the change in velocity of the person caused by the collision. This kind of makes sense because if you imagine someone getting knocked really far or fast by the cart, then they're probably going to be hurt more. So I'm going to work through this cart problem. You would need like a piece of paper, either this question 2 from the practice works, or you can just have a half sheet that has this bar chart stuff on it. So I'm going to be working with you to figure out how this bar chart works. Now, the first thing I like to do is just draw a picture to make sure that I know what's going on. The bus collision kind of has a picture already there, but this one doesn't. So I can tell there's something moving, this person is not moving, and then after the collision, the cart stops and the person is flying to the right. I've defined my system with this dotted line to include the cart and the person. So that's what this is over here. In fact, I don't even really need cart A. You can just say cart. And the reason why this is useful is I get to lay out the momentum in the system object by object and organize it before and after. The idea of conservation momentum is that the total momentum before is equal to the total momentum after. So we'll get to that. The first thing I want to do after labeling these, and if you haven't labeled these yet on your own copy, go ahead and pause it. It's up to you whether you want a picture or not, but you definitely need these labels here before we go on. And this is where we get to the thinking about how much momentum is in each of these objects. So before, we have this big cart that's moving at 2 miles per hour, which isn't super fast. So we have like 30 kilograms moving at 2 miles per hour. But that's a lot of momentum because 30 kilograms is a lot of mass. I put an X here because the person is moving at 0 miles per hour, so they have 0 momentum. And this is me just keeping track of roughly how much momentum is in the cart person system before the collision happens. Remember, the idea of conservation of momentum is that the total momentum stays the same from before to after. So even when the cart hits the person and the cart stops, which in this case the problem tells us that the car stops, the person gets all that momentum. Now, this is related to the injuries, the injuries here, because if this person ends up with a lot of momentum, that means that they're probably going to get hurt, especially if it happens really quickly. So it makes sense that this big cart is going to hurt the person because they transfer so much momentum to the person. Now, I'll point out on the actual bus test, so this is the actual question from the bus assessment, it says, explain your answer with words and or two contrasting momentum bar charts. It's not enough to just show one system here. If we're trying to show that one situation is more dangerous than the other, we need to show the person getting hit by a lighter cart also, because that has a chance of showing that the person ends up getting pushed less because less momentum is transferred to them. So actually, this shouldn't say cart A, and it shouldn't say big cart. It should say small cart, or it should say light cart, because the reason I'm including the second bar chart is to show that a smaller or less massive cart moving the same speed will hurt this person less. So your job now is to think about how you can show that on this bus test with a system involving this stopped bus and some other vehicle, and then a second system with the stop bus and another vehicle. That's the basics of skill 1. And the next video linked here is going to be about skill 2, which is going to take you to this velocity graphs pair deck. And we're going to figure out how to use this equation, and we're going to figure out how to analyze graphs like this.